Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? Happy Monday, July 28th. Great to see everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Just like to do that because it's fun. And I will take the roll call, or Caroline will do the roll call.
Aaron Gill.
Present.
Frank Kinsella, not present. Robert Sipple, not present. Allison Falwell.
Here.
Lauren Lewis.
Present.
Raj Banat, not present. Justin Fields.
Here.
Dan Kinney.
Here.
Lonnie Von Bissett, not present. Ed Von Rennen.
Here.
Beth Bricksdale.
Here.
Joe Henwood.
Here.
Mara Burton.
Here.
Mary Patterson.
Yes. And we do have a new member of our Citizens Advisory Committee. So Mary, welcome. I'm going to read a brief bio about you, and then if you want to say a few words, that would be wonderful. So Mary Patterson brings a deep passion for open space preservation and community well-being to her role as a member at large of the Citizens Advisory Committee. A longtime advocate for environmental protections, Mary has supported OSA initiatives for over a decade through ballot measures, advocacy, charitable giving, and frequent use of preserves and urban grant-funded spaces. So professionally, Mary is a child health expert serving foster youth. So thank you for your dedication and commitment to our students and youth. She also has a strong understanding of the healing power of nature and child development. She believes deeply in the social and public health benefits of open spaces, particularly for underserved communities. Mary is bringing her public service from other elected positions with her Morgan Hill Unified School District from 2016 to just last year. So thank you very much, during the pandemic as well, where she developed skills in community engagement and collaborative advocacy. We are very grateful to have Mary on our board as a member at large, and please feel free to say a few words about yourself.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor. Thank you all. I look forward to meeting all of you and working side by side. Mr. Fields, I shook two of your daughter's hands on the graduation stage as they left Sabota High School. And at least Jen, I think there was another one. Anyway, it was always a pleasure to work with both the FFA young people as well as others who've worked side by side with me on the school board, preserving open spaces and doing good things with agriculture and lands. And so I live on the cusp of Coyote Valley. So I live just 1 mile south in the Los Paseos neighborhood at the base of Tulare Hill. So I get to see the progress of Coyote Valley on a regular basis, which has been so gratifying over the last few years.
Welcome. And so now I will ask for public comments.
They're none.
Thank you. Okay, and now we will move on to the approval of minutes from our last meeting, which was May 19th, 2025. Do I have any, wait, is that what I do? I ask if I have someone to approve them.
Make a motion.
Oh, I'll make the motion. Does someone want to make the motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Justin,
Second.
thanks, Lauren. Okay.
Aaron Gill.
Abstain.
Allison Falwell.
Approve.
Lauren Lewis.
Approve.
Justin Fields.
Approve.
Dan Kenny.
Abstain.
Ed Von Rennen.
Aye.
Beth Bricksdale.
Approve.
Joe Henwood.
Approve.
Mara Burton.
Approve.
Mary Patterson.
Approve. Thank you. Thank you. They passed. All right, now we'll move on to any opening report from the CAC chairperson, and I actually do have a few things. Just wanted to say that I was reached out by another committee member regarding team bonding and building opportunities for the CAC advisory committee. After speaking with some staff, we did decide that that might be a good thing, so I wanted to kind of bring it up. I guess the vision for this is strengthening connections and enhancing our effectiveness. And I'll turn it over to the person who sent the wonderful email if they want to share a few words.
Thanks, Mara. Yeah, I was just thinking, we have a lot of new faces in this group. I count myself among those, even though I've been here 2 years, I still feel really new. And I was thinking, and I was talking with Kathy Sutherland about this recently. It would just be really good to meet together and get to know each other a little better. I think it would help us be more effective as a group in serving the Open Space Authority. So I had suggested to Mara that we perhaps just before a meeting, offer anybody who wants to get together an opportunity to come together informally. We're not going to talk about CAC business. We're not going to talk about the Open Space Authority. That's actually the entire point, is not to talk about those things and talk about just getting to know each other in the hope that we can kind of congeal a little bit more and get to know each other and our strengths so that we can leverage that for the Open Space Authority. Totally optional. But I wanted to just put that out there for anybody that's interested.
Thank you so much, Allison. So yeah, that we'll just throw that idea out there, maybe marinate on that if that's something we can work through, I guess through the chair, to see if that recommendation can move forward.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Props to the Open Space Authority for providing us some opportunities to do those types of things with, whether it be the breakfast at whatever farm I was at 2 months ago or whatever, like, well, Allison's absolutely right. We should make intentional efforts to do that. Please also take advantage of the opportunities that are already there, like the farm tours and the branch breakfast and stuff like that.
Thank you. I second that. All right, well, that is all I have for an opening report, so we will move on now to committee business. We do have a presentation. Mark is going to be recognizing Mr. Steve Mink for his contributions to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Yeah, and what a beautiful bio it is actually as well, too, so.
And one of the better tie-dye shirts, isn't it?
Good evening, Citizens Advisory Committee members. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager, and I have the distinct pleasure and honor tonight of presenting already approved. Thank you. Is it on? Yeah, okay. A resolution honoring the contributions of CAC member Steve Mink, who's here with us this evening. That was approved last Thursday at the Board of Directors meeting. And so what I'd like to do is, if it's all right with you, Madam Chair, is read the resolution that was approved by our board into the record, make a few very brief comments myself, and then pass it back to you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution. So a resolution of the Governing Board of the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, recognizing the contributions of Steve Mink, at-large member to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Whereas Steve Mink served as a member of the Open Space Authority Citizens Advisory Committee since 2019, where he served as vice chair starting in 2021 until 2024, with only a brief pause in service from April through August 2024. And whereas during his tenure on the CAC, Steve served on the Urban Grant Program Guidelines Review Subcommittee in 2020 and again in 2023, when he also served on the Outreach Subcommittee to the CAC. And whereas Steve's last day of service on the CAC was June 30th, 2025. And whereas Steve has been described by his colleagues as a dedicated, well-informed, enthusiastic, driven, dependable, and very thoughtful member of the CAC who always gave his absolute best. And whereas Steve consistently demonstrated humility, even when contributing significantly as a volunteer in very demanding programs such as Trail Masters and Land Stewards. And whereas Steve was an impressive and passionate educator for the Open Space Authority when volunteering at outreach booths. And whereas Steve was often seen sporting tie-dye t-shirts, including but not limited to those with authority branding, all of which were reflected of his artfully worded and creative comments provided during CAC meetings. And whereas Steve was known for his thought-provoking insights and questions that were often representative of others' perceptions not yet voiced. And whereas Steve provided firm leadership in his role as vice chairperson for the CAC, that was also tempered by his engaging sense of humor, which frequently seemed to bring out the best in others. And whereas Steve's knowledge and enthusiasm for bee populations is considered to be contagious, inspiring members of the public to cherish bees as critical ecosystem species, while frequently sweetening his educational ways by providing free, delicious honey. And whereas Steve's gentle smile reliably made others feel comfortable and welcome. And whereas Steve demonstrated over and over again during his service on the Citizens Advisory Committee how much he cares about his community, nature, agriculture, and the Open Space Authority mission. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors honors Steve Mink's dedicated service as a member of the Open Space Authority's Citizens Advisory Committee since 2019. Passed and approved and adopted on July 24th, 2025. So Steve, as I said, I'm just very, very honored to be able to present this resolution tonight. It's been such a pleasure working with you over the years. I mean, in so many ways, I'm really glad to hear that my understanding is you're going to continue to volunteer with the Open Space Authority, so still providing contributions into the future. Just one thing I really want to call out that has been a really significant element of your contribution in my mind is that here on the CAC, you'd often bring up things that you were very candid in saying that maybe others weren't necessarily bringing up, but you're very outspoken, and I think that has helped us so many times. One really good example of that is that flyer that everybody's got on their desk about Measure Q and Measure T expenditures. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but in part that was your inspiration in saying that that's really something that we needed to be talking about to our constituents. And so there was an allusion to that in the resolution, but I just wanted to call that out as something that I saw that not only brought out what comments you had, but also then I think inspired others to speak up more as well. And so it really amplified the benefit that you brought to the Open Space Authority. Anyway, I just really appreciate your service to the agency. Thanks so much, Steve. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much for that. Yes, I think personally, your love of bees has stung me. That's my little pun right there. But yes, I feel like I see bees and pollinators all around now, and just a bit more appreciative for what they bring to our ecosystems and our ecologies. So thank you for that, and also your awesome tie-dye shirts as well too. Okay, so moving right along, and unless, can I open the floor to have others say some things about Steve? Okay, great, because I don't want to move right along. So I'm gonna actually open the floor to have others say a few words about Steve as well too. I'm trying to learn people's name, but Ed, I saw your hand, or Lauren. Are you okay?
Okay, Steve, so you were kind of my OSA mentor, and I'm gonna make this super fast. And if you guys know me, that's not normal. Thank you so much. You made me feel right at home. You kind of showed me the ropes, and I hope we keep in touch. I appreciate you so much.
Edward?
I just want to thank you. Steve and I met at a training event at Tilton. And he's the one that made me aware of the Citizens Advisory Committee and the reason I'm here. So you can blame him. And also I would suggest that you come in here in the public area and comment, because we can still use your valuable knowledge. Thank you.
Steve, I'm here, a big reason because of you. I understand you're a trail master, and I'm really dedicated trail master as well as also a land preserve person, but because of you, I became into the CAC, and I thank you for that and expanding my knowledge and getting an understanding of this as well. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Justin?
Steve, you were, my vice chair, part of it, and I want to thank you for that, and, it's not very often that you have a cowboy and a guy in a tie-dye shirt who have a lot of the same. I want to thank you for that. Very, very welcome, thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to briefly say, and I said this to the board last Thursday night. I think of Steve Mink, I think of a quintessential CAC member. And sometimes I can't even imagine a time when Steve wasn't sitting here at the table as a CAC member. You've been such a contributor. But more than anything else, when I think of Steve, I think of that trail master role. And the Trail Masters program seemed to grow around Steve. He was so integral to it. And the day that we all celebrated the acquisition of these key lands in the Coyote Valley, and we had our field staff, we were out there with Peninsula Open Space Trust, our OSA team, we were actually putting the stakes in the ground, the poles in the ground to put signs up to say, basically, this land protected forever, and there was Steve on the former Brandenburg property, now planting that stake in the ground, this land protected forever. And so I'll keep that in my mind for a long, long time. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, Steve.
Public comment.
Definitely keep it to 3 minutes. I had seen the picture and it's a great picture that you caught of me with a smile. So I do smile. It just they don't ever show up in pictures. But I thought the tie-dye was a little too tame. So I picked this one for tonight. I wanted to thank the OSA for the opportunity to work with you all. And I want to thank the Citizens Advisory Committee for the chance to work on the projects that we did, the urban grants programs, and doing what we could to improve the common good of this valley and where we live. I got to come clean, Justin. I'm not a cowboy, but I did go to Fresno State, and so I've known a lot of cowboys. My brother was a cowboy, but I've had a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed working with each and every one of you. I've got a story I could tell, a good one about each and every one, but I've learned long ago that that's a bad thing for a speaker to do because I'll forget as I get halfway through. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you so much, and carry on the good work. Have fun. And if you decide before the next Citizen Advisory Committee to meet at Coyote Valley parking lot at 5:30 before the meeting, just to kind of hang out in the parking lot, let me know. I'll meet you guys there. Take care. Thanks.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I might make one more.
please do.
So as you may know, Thursday night at the board meeting, Steve received a framed resolution from the board that was all signed and everything. So tonight, so that we're not completely empty-handed, we also have one additional memento. So Steve, if you want to come on up. So Steve, we're going to present you with your nameplate for the CAC meetings.
It's important. You need these little things to remember. Steve, that's right. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all. There you go. Take care. Thank you.
Love you, buddy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your years of service, your smiles, the dedication, and clearly, and you've touched hearts and minds and trails of a lot of people in here. And I think the future hikers and OSA constituents will be very, very happy to know about your dedication as well, too. So, thank you. All right. Thank you for recognizing Steve's contributions. Thanks, Caroline. We'll be moving on. I got new glasses. I could totally see all the way across. Presentation. Yeah. Presentation of board approval for the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget and work plan from Justina Tien.
It's not this height though.
I feel like there should be like music playing because it's work plan time. Yes.
Hey, good evening, committee members. My name is Justina Teen, Fiscal Services Officer. Tonight, we're excited to present to the committee the authority's fiscal year 25-26 budget and annual work plan. Typically, the development of the budget and work plan spans over half a year, although it feels longer than that. And staff across all the departments are involved. And approximately after starting the new fiscal year, which is what we're actually in fiscal year 25-26, it starts on July 1st of each calendar year and ends on June 30th. The executive team, as well as the management and strategy teams, they start to evaluate the priorities for the upcoming year. And they start engaging with the board to kind of discuss and seek feedback on the priorities. And around December to March, the project managers and program leads start to work with their department managers to kind of put together the budget and work plan. And in June, the board adopts the budget and work plan. And today, we're happy to provide a general overview of these priorities and work plan as approved by the board on June 12th, earlier this year. And so just kind of give a little sense, in this fiscal year, the authority's priorities, among other projects and initiatives, include delivering projects and programmatic work across all departments, as shown as in our functional org chart here. We're going to continue reaching deep into our communities, do the work of, it starts looking like that. Sorry, it's a little small. It got scaled back. Do the work of local agencies, schools, and nonprofits by awarding the grants funded by Measure Q and Measure T. So staff in the Conservation and Strategic Partnership Department will be very busy managing the urban grant program solicitation currently in progress. And we'll look to the CAC for support in continuing to provide feedback and review guidelines to inform future grant cycles, which aligns with the objective 5 of the CAC's work plan. And then, is this the one that I uploaded? Sorry, technical difficulties here. That's why it looked a little odd. Okay. Sure. Can I drop it somewhere? Sorry about that. It could be that the file got corrupted during upload.
Oh.
The thing is, if the file's too big, it's going to.
Oh.
Madam Chair, while we navigate the uploading of the presentation, should we move on to new business item 3, and then we can come back?
Yes, of course. And I was actually gonna invite everyone to take a few deep breaths right now as well, too. Yeah, thanks. We'll move on to number 3.
I promise there'll be pictures later.
All right, so now we are actually going to be receiving a presentation and update from Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve Accessibility Project, focusing on interpretive design with Thea Yang and Mel Sarmiento. Sorry, I put an extra vowel in there.
Good evening, committee members. My name is Thea Yang, and I am the new associate open space planner with Planning, Design, Construction Department. And I'm also the new project manager for the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve Public Access Project. I'm joined tonight by Mel Cemento, our new education administrator. Together, we're sharing an update on the interpretive design work, along with a brief overview of the project. Since both of us are pretty new to the authority and to our roles, so we think it might be a good idea to start with a quick introduction of ourselves. So I've been with the authority for almost 5 months now, focusing primarily on the capital improvement projects and really enjoying the work, and especially like the incredible team that I get to work with. My background is in landscape architecture and environmental planning, and I received my Master of Landscape Architecture from UC Berkeley. Super passionate about designing and planning public spaces, especially working with communities, which is why I'm pretty excited to be here tonight. So before joining the authority, I work as a landscape designer on public parks and public school projects. Many are in partnership with minority communities. Then I work as a system project manager for a nonprofit public space organization in San Francisco. Also working a lot with community-driven type of projects. So just want to say that again, super excited to be here tonight, and thank you for all for your dedication to community work. And now I will let Mel to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right. My name is Mel Sarmento. I am the new educational programs administrator. So I transitioned into this role the beginning of July. So in advance of working with Open Space Authority, I've spent most of my professional career in the nonprofit sector. So I did a lot of environmental education. I've been volunteering, interning, working for more than 20 years. And I've been working with developing programs like field trips and having an assortment of programs for the community so they can feel engaged with nature. So I've worked at the Youth Science Institute. I've worked at Guadalupe River Park Conservancy, where I oversaw all of the education programs, and eventually transitioned into a program director role where I oversaw both the volunteer and education departments and oversaw all of the programming that we offered to the public. So I also received, very gratefully, for about 10 years, I received grants from the Open Space Authority, and we were able to offer thousands of field trips to low-income low-income and foster youth and groups with special needs. So we have an assortment of programs. I'm very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to joining this team for a very long time. So thank you all very much.
So for tonight's presentation, again, I will share a quick recap and update on the overall project, since we are getting close to the bidding and construction phase, and then Mel will walk you through the interpretive elements. And the main goal is to get your feedback on the first draft of the interpretive components. And also, as we near this important milestone, we would love for your support in helping spread the word and then build up momentum for the project. And the full presentation should take about 10 minutes, and then we'll leave time at the end for questions, comments, and your direction. Start with project goals. The major driven force of this project is from equity and inclusion, aiming to make trails and open space more accessible and welcoming for all. So for example, the major improvements that we are making is to upgrading the Hearts Delight Trail with stabilized decomposite granite, which will make a huge difference for people with mobility challenges. And we're also improving the entry, upgrading amenities, and adding new rest areas and trail pullouts. This change it's all also about enhancing the visitor experiences. And a key part of this project is the interpretive experiences. We were using panels and installations that will help tell the stories of Coyote Valley to highlight this as an important first step towards the larger planning and improvement efforts for Coyote Valley, which Mel will touch on in shortly. So here is a map of the project boundary. And the trail that we're focusing on, it's about a 1/4 mile long. When you arrive at Pond Avenue, you will see a parking lot, equestrian parking, and then as well as a restroom. And then there's like 3 small shade structures with sittings, and this is where the trail begins. Right now, the visitor kind of have to walk a bit to get to the existing kiosk. There are currently 2 interpretive panels along this trail. As you can see from the photos, the trail isn't well defined, and there are also some drainage issues on the trail. So during the site inventory, our arborists also report some of the existing trail alignment is impacting the health of the nearby oak trees here. So to address these issues that we identify, our improvements include an ADA and compliant parking, and also a new shade structure here at the entry with the kiosk information, and then a new gate here for equestrian and bike access. So this will provide visitor a very clear, defined, welcoming entry to the preserve. As you walk along the trail, the first stop is a new circle dedicated to our founders as part of the story telling about stewardship. You might also join the Celebrate Our Roots event. So this is a photo of like the day where we planted the 5 oak trees together. And then we also have a bench here for people to sit on and reflect on the story of stewardship at this point. And this area also provide a beautiful view and sense of future connection to Coyote Valley. And as you walk along the trail will pass a picnic area where we designed the layout to carefully protect the beautiful oak tree here. And it's a great spot for larger group events under the tree canopy. So for example, you can use it for education programs here. And then the trail will across a bridge here over the creek and continue. So nearby, you will see 2 more resting areas here. where people can pause and learn about history, and then we'll have more, like 2 more panels here. And then so people can kind of enjoying a different views in a more quiet settings. Right now, the project is in the permitting phase. And also we have undergoing environmental review to comply with National Environmental Policy Act. And then we anticipate the construction to begin in spring 2026 and wrap up by fall, which is super exciting. And then as we get close to the construction bidding process, we'll definitely reach out to this committee to tell more about engagement plan that we have, which will include like social media blast, and then potentially community events and celebration as well. The total project budget is about $1.8 million, and we've been very fortunate to receive significant outside funding, including $200K from Valley Water and then $800K in federal funding secured by Representative Panetta. These grants are a great example and testament to a strong partnership, and shared commitment to equity and access to open space. On the interpretive design side, our education team and the planning design construction team have been working very closely with our consultant to shape a vision that's creative, beautiful, meaningful, and then rooted in the site's unique character. Staff across different departments have also contributed feedback to help make sure these elements are as impactful and resonant as possible. So with that, I will hand it over to Mel, who will walk you through the interpretive concepts in more detail.
All right. So interpretation. So I figured it would be a good place for us to start just by reading the theme together so we have a grounding place where we can all begin. So the interpretation is rooted in the Valley Oak Savannah ecological community that communicates the long-standing tradition of land preservation and introduces visitors to the inhabitants of the Oak Savannah community. So as you can see, the panels are going to be carried throughout the path. So the story unfolds as the path continues. So I'll give just an overview of some of the themes of the different panels that we have, and then we'll delve a little bit more into aesthetic. So actually, first I'm going to show you where they are, so we can kind of see where we're starting. So the first panel is going to be at this info kiosk that was introduced earlier. The second panel is going to be at the Founders Circle, in addition to the Founders Interpretive Plaque panel. The third panel is going to be located by that oak area that was described earlier, where programming would be a great option. And then we have our fourth panel over here, and then our fifth panel over here. So the first panel is it's a higher level introduction to the interconnectedness of people and nature. So in particular, the way that humans have the power to protect and heal nature, and nature also has the power to heal and protect us by protecting us from things like natural disasters. So then the second panel will be transitioning into the history of our space and paying respect to the original and current land stewards. The third and fourth panels address the vitality of our valley as a wildlife pathway and essential waterway, respectively. Our fifth panel will be designed in collaboration with our tribal partners, and the specific content is still being developed as conversations are continuing. The final panel will honor our founders as leaders who formed the Open Space Authority and have worked more than 50 years to protect our land. The piece also includes an implicit invitation and a call to action for our community members to do the same. And now we'll transition into aesthetic. So some of you may recognize these interpretive signs from Mayano Yakba. So the reason that we're showing these is they are the design inspiration behind the panels that that have been developed over time. The panels that we are going to be showing you today are not the final panels. They're still in transition and we're still working through what the content's going to be. But I did want you to have a visual for what the designers were kind of leaning towards. So the goal is for us to have a consistency among the preserves, so to have a consistent image. So these signs are made out of etched metal, although the specific material has not been decided yet. They're still in conversations. So these are two of the designs. This is panel 1 and 4. So although these designs are consistent with Mayana Yakima, it still honors the unique landscape and history of Coyote Valley. So from the original design, we did request some dynamic content displays, which is where you're going to see the Bobcat movement map on the lower left of the second sign. And you'll also see we asked for some place building. So you'll see the Diablo and the Santa Cruz mountain ranges in the back, so that when someone's looking at these panels, they have a sense of place. So as mentioned, we are exploring potential materials such as laminate, where we might be able to integrate some more color. And we're currently assessing cost and durability in the long term before we make that decision. So the consistency between the preserve signage is intended to bridge awareness of who we are as an agency across all of our preserves. So the next panel. So this is the founder's circle and the interpretive sign. So as Thea had pointed out, you can see the oak trees that we planted at the Celebrating Our Roots event, a permanent installation along with these boulders. And that's to reinforce the fact that this is going to be a permanent installation to honor the founders. So, yeah, okay. So this is what the design is. However, there's another layer to this panel that we'll show here, honoring the vision. So just as the founders had a vision for our agency in Valley, this gives an opportunity for the public to see the preserve through a different perspective. The piece is intended to be like a cut frame of sorts, so visitors can look through the sign and physically see the vision our founders had directly in front of them. Allowing our community members to see their vision also implicitly invites them to be visionaries themselves, recognize the power that they have, that their voice has in conservation, and as mentioned, have a place to sit and reflect with these benches and to see the vision of decades of hard work right before their eyes. So the image will change season and year as visitors look through it, and it keeps it dynamic and exciting. We are also intending to have a QR code, potentially like a plaque or some sticker, that's still to be determined, but some form of a QR code on the frame that community members can scan. It will connect directly to our website so that we can keep it updated, and the information will develop with time. So with this, we have concluded our formal presentation, but we did want to open the floor to anyone and hear thoughts you would like to share regarding the project.
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, Thea and Mel. What a wonderful, well-rounded presentation. Welcome to OSA. Sounds like you both have great backgrounds and are good fits for the agency. And so I just want to say thank you to staff for bringing on even more great staff with dedication and hearts as you both have. So during the presentation, I had a couple questions and you answered them all as you were presenting. So thank you for that as well. I was going to ask about evergreen signage, and the way that you translated this into visuals, I think was great. I wrote open space, or the open negative space on the cutouts is such a positive impact. And I really like how you explained it about how it will change during the seasons and whatnot as well too. So I thought that was a great presentation. I did have a question about the drainage of where you planted the new trees. You talked a little bit about water, having some, I also work for Valley Water, so anytime you say groundwater, I always think, if you say plants, I'm always thinking, okay, where's the water coming from? So just wondering if there's a natural resource for those oak trees and the trees along the trails. Or are you going to be importing water to help keep that area growing. And then really excited to see if you're going to be doing an RFP for that for that other construction. And if you are, what criteria are you looking at for companies that might be helping to enhance that beautiful preserve and bring your vision to life? So those are my questions. I think you did a great job in your presentation as well too. So thank you so much for that. And I'll open it up to other comments from our CAC members. Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Gave him a list.
I
You should
did.
probably let him address the list.
Yes, through the chair, I'm gonna try to answer the questions and
Can
then,
you repeat those again?
Yes, I can. Okay, so what they are, because I have my little notes here, that's why Mark's
And then
laughing.
we're good, Justin thinks we're good.
Yeah, so maybe just some water drainage.
Yeah.
And maybe the criteria that you're looking at for companies that might be helping you build the construction.
yeah, that's all like great question, and then I will try to answer it. And then, so about the drainage, like because we're gonna like change like make sure like the topo of the like the cross section of the path is like drain the water away from the path. So hopefully, that will kind of also we're gonna do some regrading of the site to make sure the water is like draining out of the trail, which will hopefully solve the drainage issue that we see there. And in terms of like bringing water to irrigate the oak tree, I don't think that's in the plan because we can like the oak tree they're kind of rely on the natural like environment there. So I don't think we bring any irrigation system to the site. That's what I understand right now. And then I think the second question is about the construction. We're gonna send out an RFP to hire contractors to work on the construction part. And then right now, actually, we are one of the very important thing that we're researching right now is to find a contractor can do can implement like specialized stabilized decomposite granite because we see a lot of kind of potential issues, and then that needs a very like specialized skill to install. So that's one of the research that we are doing right now. Like just I think that's a part of the criteria that we're looking for, but just want to make sure they have enough experience working on this type of environment. I think that's one of the main factors that we're considering. Lucas, if you have anything.
Yeah, but maybe through the chair, we're not planning to install permanent irrigation as Thea mentioned, so we'll be hand watering for the first couple of years. I've been coordinating closely with field staff. Valley Water installed during the last round of pipeline maintenance, water source for us there. So we have readily available on-site water. And our field staff has just purchased backpacks to haul in water. It's not far in this location, but that'll be the plan for the first couple of years until oak trees are established. And then I think they have pretty well mentioned or pretty well addressed the second question regarding the RFP. We will be releasing that. We're planning early in the new year, 2026, to release that RFP, and it will include quals. I think as Thea mentioned, the biggest two pieces of this project are the quals for the shade structure itself, and the ability to fabricate and construct that, and then the stabilized decomposed granite. So we'll definitely be looking at prior project experience and success on those projects.
Thank you. I was really interested in the presentation, obviously, but the questions in bigger.
Yes, thank you. The presentation was really, really great. I had a question and you immediately started to answer it. So I wanted to see if we can elaborate a little bit on the QR codes. Obviously QR codes, we all thought it was a fad. They're here to stay. So they're now here forever. How are you going to utilize the QR codes, and are they going to be used for each of the different spots, and are they going to pull up different types of information that correlates to the information shared there, or is it just going to pull up at one location just to go to the website?
Through the chair, we have been having conversations about this because we were also trying to consider ways that we could integrate languages. You did see that there were 2 languages listed here. That's also something that we're discussing as we move through this. There hasn't been a formal decision on what the QR code story is going to be. There's been other discussions about how we can carry the story, how a visitor can have a self-paced experience through the interpretation. Um, in reference to the QR code that was mentioned, for sure, we're going to have one at the Founders Circle so that folks are able to scan it and learn more about the founders and the history. But although conversations have happened, there hasn't been a firm decision on if we're going to extend that to the other panels.
Thanks for the wonderful presentation. It looks really nice. I think it's an exciting adventure out here on Palm Avenue, bring it together. Obviously, it's in its formal stages and being designed right now and kind of conceptualized, and it would be really nice to have it to go into kind of like different rabbit holes in terms of why the connectivity between the Diablo Range and the Santa Cruz Range is so important. What does the Coyote Valley actually play in terms of the ecosystem? What are the benefits? And there's so much to do there in education. And I think that even with a short little walkway like that, it'd be super important for people to go ahead and bring, school buses out there and children and whatnot, be able to go ahead and take this adventure of what is an ecosystem and why it's so important in terms of what it provides to the community as a whole. Would be super exciting for your guys' side to be able to bring to fruition. So I wish you all the best in this, but I love your signage, I love your concept, and I applaud you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, Beth, Beth had her hand.
Sure, I have a list, awesome. Thank you for the presentation. I'm very excited to see this happening. I was wondering about the size of the parking lot, because it's one of the places where I have sometimes not been able to find a spot, and since you're making it more attractive now, I wonder if it would be even more challenging on busy weekends for people to find a parking spot. I think it would be very cool if there could be, I don't know what they're called, but like permanent binoculars or spotting scope or something installed along there. Because it looks out at that meadow and there's a hill and I've seen birds and coyotes and things. It would just be like, I think, a fun way for people to engage differently. The picnic area is interesting to me because I was remembering that we don't have trash cans, I think, maybe in any of the preserves, because we don't want to attract wildlife. But now that looks like it's taking shape to be an actual dedicated place to sit and eat food, I wonder if that's gonna be something where we need some extra messaging to people about why there's no trash can. And then my last comment is the $1.8 million. It does really surprise me. It seems like a lot. It's a relatively short trail with tables and benches and signs, and I don't see like where's the $1.8 million needed. It's probably because I don't appreciate the complexity of what it is. I thought I'd just share that.
Through the chair, like about the size of the parking lot, I kind of have to get back to you, like the actual size, but we are not like expanding the parking lot. It's the same size, but we are kind of reserving and bring up to code, ADA code, so it's not expanded, the parking lot. And about like the spotting scope, I think that's a great idea because we actually talk about that as one of the options for the founders circle that's kind of the early discussion that we have. And then we also like, I'm pretty new to here, but I already heard this is a great spot to like view the birds. So I think that's a great idea. And then we can definitely talk more. But that's my initial thoughts about the spotting scope. And then also like, thank you for mentioning about like messaging about the trash and then reminding people to bring trash back home and then why we are not have trash bins here. I think that's a great message to have. So thank you for sharing that. And then the last comments that you mentioned about the budget, like the cost that we have. So I just want to explain a little bit more about like the breakdown of the cost here. So as you can see, like the planning and permitting phase, we spent nearly like 600 K there. That includes like the kind of the pre-scoping phase as well as all the consultant fees to pay the landscape architects, engineers, who work on this project, including civil engineers, geotech engineers, and then we also hire like consultants to do like site inventory as well before we actually dive into, defining the scopes, um, including like cultural resources inventory as well as the like the and like identify the wildlife and the biological inventories there. So that's kind of like the cost for the planning and also like the permitting. This part also including all the permitting that was submitted to like county and counties mainly including in that cost as well. And then for the construction cost, which takes major portion of $1.8 million here, because like as kind of after COVID, like the cost just for construction just skyrocketed. So that's why the construction cost like went up in like this is kind of the estimate that we currently have. And also you can see we include like 15 construction contingency here to make sure like we can get everything down. So that's kind of the like the breakdown of the cost here. I don't know if Lucas you have more to share about the budget here too.
Yeah, I mean, through the chair, also I forgot to introduce myself, Lucas Shellhammer, Planning, Design and Construction Manager, for those I have not met. Yeah, I think Thea, you covered that pretty well. There's a lot of work that goes into the back end of planning these projects as a government agency. I think it didn't mention, this includes our CEQA consultants, NEPA consultants, and I'll pivot there. We've been really lucky to get $1 million in federal funding for this, and that $200,000 is actually from 2014, I think, was the original date of the grant. So we've been over the years, as costs have escalated, worked to keep this project on track to meet the requirements of that grant, while keeping, a good project that can showcase Coyote Valley for the future. So we're really excited about the $1 million in grant funding, and getting really near. Some of this has been spent, most of the planning and permitting money has been spent in previous fiscal years, so really we're getting close to that, the future construction costs here.
If I could, Lucas, so this project would have to go through CEQA?
So CEQA has been approved by our board of directors in 2023. Yes. And part of the reason for that is there is potentially significant tribal cultural resources in the area. So we had to do additional geological testing, including phase 2 testing and excavations.
The chair, but I want to ask staff to explain a little more about this. And maybe we could go back to the site plan with the parking. What's been the story of that parking lot? And Beth, I agree that, parking has been in demand by the public who want to go out there. So can you talk a little bit about what we've done with that parking lot and what the plans are for it? Maybe in the context of other staging areas that'll be opening in the area.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair. So to back up, when this was originally built, we had some issues with the product in the equestrian lot. So you may remember it would flood seasonally for a long time. So we were able to address that last year outside of this project, and that opens up a lot of potential to use that lot year round. And so as Andrea mentioned, this project is really keeping the parking the same, but we are looking in the greater context of planning Coyote Valley additional parking lots. So that includes looking at an expanded parking lot here or in the nearby area, repurposing that equestrian lot and potentially relocating it. We also have, as we're planning, adjacent Tilton property, and our Tilton 60 house, which many of you have seen, I'm sure. There are other opportunities for parking lots in the area. So we're looking at staging areas holistically through the CV Camp planning process and adjacent planning processes. So that's kind of the, the midterm solution. In the short term, and I will get back to you on the details, we're also looking at doing basically a prototype of switching over some of these lots, some of the equestrian lot, to allow vehicular parking certain times of the day. So I'll have to get back to you on the details and how that'll be rolled out, but that's in the very near term here. I think in the next couple months, we're planning to roll that out to see how it goes and what sort of feedback we get from the public.
Justin, Lauren.
Yeah, in Aaron's comments, he mentioned ecosystem. And I mean, this is one of the few places that you'll find that you have basically an intact ecosystem. You got the mountains that flow down into a valley floor, and then you basically see what it looked like many years ago, before anything was developed, whether housing or farming or anything. And there aren't that many places anywhere left where you have that, where you've got both components together like that. So I think that's kind of important to point out.
Okay. Here we go. I'll start with the important stuff. Okay, so first of all, I love us. Nobody loves us more than I do. But I do think that including a founder circle in a $1.8 million project is going to be challenging in the economic climate we face, in terms of my my responsibility to report back to my constituents. I'm gonna have a tough time telling them that I'm gonna spend it 6 figures on a monument to me. That's gonna be a tough sell, even though I like it. But it's gonna be a tough sell to my constituents. Another thing, the trail improvements, accessibility improvements. Most of us have spent quite a bit of time out there, and the trail that you can see in this part of the screen is about as chill as it can get. So I wonder, what money are we spending to make it more accessible? Are we literally pounding it into concrete? And if that's what we're doing, it certainly does make it more accessible, but does it seems at that point to go contrary to maintaining the environment, right? Like, if we're effectively paving something that's doesn't really need to be paved. Furthermore, on that point, I am all about accessibility, but I also understand that there's certain things that we can't access, like the top of Mount Everest, right? Like, we could pound the top of Mount Everest until it was only 14,000 feet above sea level so that more people could access it. But is that what we want, right? So when we're paving and flattening things, I hope that's something we're considering. And that's not the best I can do for right now.
Can I respond to Lauren Lewis's comments a little bit? First, I just want to say that the notion of having a spot to just take in the valley and to honor the people that 50 years ago started raising the issue that we needed to protect this valley. So if you came out to the Founders Day that we had a month and a half ago or so, it was an amazing gathering of about 100 people who served on the Board of Supervisors, the City Council, the Green Foothills, organizations that don't even exist anymore. So it's really, really important to find a place. If you go to most parks, the city or the county level, you'll find plaques honoring the general manager or the board of directors or whatever it happens to be. There are so many people that have contributed to the preservation of this valley that you couldn't put them all on a plaque. So that was really important. And I'd like to kind of not dismiss, but just respond to the notion that we spent a boatload of money to pat ourselves on the back. And that's the last thing we're doing here. So it's taken years to kind of take in this valley, and the pathway that staff is designing with the landscape architects is true to the notion of what Coyote Valley is supposed to be. But the DG pathway will allow people in wheelchairs and with other challenges, mobility challenges, to get out at one of the few places in Santa Clara Valley on the valley floor to take in the majesty of this county. So I just wanted to say, I don't think, other than the cost of materials going up, we didn't go out of our way to spend a lot of money to have unnecessary things out there. So anyway, I'm happy to talk more about it, but in a lot of ways, the board of directors really were champions for this notion of having a place to contemplate the contribution of people to the Coyote Valley. And so that's what that place is all about. And I don't know if staff wants to comment. When we took this to the board recently, you had some inputs on accessibility. And maybe you want to just mention that came out of our land use and stewardship committee. I wasn't at that meeting, so I would be reporting it secondhand, but just in terms of the accessibility for the public.
Yeah, through the chair, like also I want to kind of like also from a designer point of view, because we wanted to talk about this kind of the stories of storing the Coyote Valley, at so thinking about this as a system, right? Like I think OSA as the founder, also the founders is part of the stewardship, and then that's one of the stop here. So you kind of reading this kind of, it's kind of like a timeline, right? Like you walk through the trail and then you kind of read the story of stewardship along the trail. So hopefully that's kind of see it as part of this narrative in the storytelling. And also I want to address like the comments about like want to make minimum impact on the land, but also provide people with accessibility like challenges to enjoying the view. So like I want to make sure that I mentioned this. Our landscape architects definitely did a lot of research and then kind of carefully designed this trail to be kind of, like using the existing trail and then improving it, have minimum impact on the environment, but also providing people more access to this area. So I just want to make sure that I mentioned that. And about the land stewardship and then use committee meeting, we also bring this to the board of supervisors, and then the committee also very excited about this project. And it talks about like how important this is for people with I think one of the board member mentioned they have their loved ones are also like using the the I don't know what you call that, a wheelchair. Like, so she's really appreciate like we are doing this work and then and help advocating for this project. So that's kind of what I learned from.
Yeah, if I may through the chair, I'll just build on that a little bit. It looks very flat, and that is one of the reasons why we're creating an accessible trail at this location, because most of our preserves we can't get accessible trail, and it's very close to 101. As others have mentioned, we can bring school groups out here. And it looks very flat, but there are very specific guidelines to creating an accessible trail. Cross slopes, steepness of certain areas, and this trail far from meets that width as well. And most importantly, firm and stable surface year round. So we've done at our recent Miami Yakima and Rancho Bridge day use area, we have accessible surfaces which are suitable year round. This area gets very muddy, as you all know. So that those are the requirements of creating an accessible trail. And then I'll just add the probably, I don't know the number offhand, but I would guess about 50% of the project costs are in redoing the parking areas, access to the restroom, access to the signage and wayfinding, which is currently on the interior of the preserve. We'll bring all of that up to our current code, working with our communications department, creating new maps. All of that stuff was identified in our 2022 ADA transition plan as things that need to get done to make this preserve accessible for everyone. So as part of that project, we're folding in all this other work too. The ADA parking spots aren't up to current code. And so I'll leave it there. If there's any other questions.
Thank you. Joe?
Yes, it's mostly about the accessibility because my son is in a wheelchair. He's 42, and for open space to make a trail is great because at mine, Oyakma, that trail is perfect. And if we as an organization want to get more people out to our preserves, we need to do that. It's giving them access to things that they would not usually be able to see. So it's very important. Also, the number of spaces that you allow, because if it's going to be for accessibility, you might need to consider more blue spaces, because that way more people can come out, more word gets out, more people come to the preserves. And that's what we're looking for. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, Lonnie?
As we're talking about accessibility, and I know I mentioned the QR codes and maybe taking it to further information. I would love it if there was like an audio version of said information. If it happened to be, I don't know if it's a poem or if it's gonna be something really pretty that you guys end up having written, or if it's like story-like. I know you guys aren't like set in stone with what you're gonna be presenting, but I think that would be really cool since it is a very short thing. And if you're thinking of including education and children are coming, that's a very fun way to incorporate it, but it's also for accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can,
Yes.
I guess one thing that I reflect upon is I used to go running at Rancho San Antonio. And I loved to run up there, and that was a long time ago when I did that before I moved down south. And I went there a few years back and I saw the changes, and talking about parking and use, that place has just exploded. It's really hard to find a place to park there because people want to be there. They want to be in that atmosphere. They want to be on those trails. They want to go by that little family farm and see the pigs and the chickens and all that stuff. I think what you're going to do is you're going to build that type of a event here as well. So it's a little bit different, Rancho San Antonio versus open space down there. So I'm not quite sure what you're going to do for parking to get people in and out of here, to keep it more of a natural flowing area. With the growth of South County right now is booming, and it's a good thing that Coyote Valley didn't get swallowed up by that 25,000 homes. So congratulations to the founders and everybody else who's actually made this a place that could be a refuge, because the way things are growing right now, it's crazy in my mind. So you know, I think that parking is a concern. That doesn't mean that you need to have 500 spaces in that equestrian area for sure, but maybe offsite with some other means to get to there or not, whether that's bike access or pedestrian access or whatever it is. I know there's a lot of properties that are being looked at right now for potential. So just as a future type of I'm sure this would be phase one of probably 15 phases at least. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron, I like your style, but to respond to you, I mean, I know that access and awareness is what we want, but I see a cap to that, right? Like, we don't want 500 cars in that parking lot. We don't want 500 people in those trains, right? Like our growth, our optimal growth is like if it arcs the way we want it to in months, we would have all we could handle forever, right? So without being contrarian, without saying I don't want people there, is is rampant growth, is growth at all costs, like. I mean, okay, we all agree, that's not what we want, but where, I'm not seeing the, the negative side to that, I'm just seeing the push, more, more, more.
Are you talking about just traffic in the
Yes.
bus itself? Wanting to go ahead and limit the traffic that goes through?
I
it?
don't want to limit the traffic, but I don't think that, I don't think it's necessary to try and grow it at all costs. I think it's growing on its own. I mean, you yourself, you
But it will
comparing the
come.
traffic,
It will come,
it will come,
yeah,
it will come.
you're gonna build it and it will come.
So, I mean, again, do we need to do so many things to accelerate growth? Right? If the growth is gonna happen on its own. And too much growth is a bad thing. Do we need to do everything we can to accelerate growth?
Well, that wasn't my point. That wasn't my point at all. My point was that you're gonna create something here that people want to go see, and you're gonna actually create a natural demand. And so you're not gonna have enough spaces in there for people to park.
So are we spending enough time thinking about the brakes? Or are we spending too much time thinking about the gas and not enough time thinking about the brakes?
Hi, that's a different conversation.
That's the one I'm bringing.
I'm saying you're gonna build something, there's something there, it's gonna have a natural beauty to it, people are gonna come, which is good. You wanna go ahead and expose people to what the open space authority is doing. In that same instance, you're gonna have some overcrowding. And that's gonna create another problem. And how do you go ahead and administer that?
All that,
That's all my point.
yes, 100%, all that, Aaron, all of that.
Thank you. Thank you both for your comments. Mark, it looks like you wanted to say a few words as well too, maybe to address this. Thank you, staff.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good and, you know, of course, very lively discussion, one that's representative of, you know, a lot of things that we're hearing out in the community. We do need to, we have a responsibility to our constituents to provide access to open space and I think, our board of directors certainly thinks that includes, accessibility for those with disabilities. We are seeing a lot of growth in population in the South Bay. We do have to balance that with protection of nature and protection of the habitats for the critters, and as well protect the visitor experience that we all appreciate out there. It's not an easy thing to balance all of those, but that's exactly why there's such an emphasis here, and our board has put staff in the direction of creating a master plan with lots of community input, expert input to balance all of those different elements, the public access, habitat, water resources, that's really important to the city of San Jose, also agriculture and so many other elements here and the ways that we're protecting communities from extreme weather and the effects of climate change. So lots of different elements to balance. It's not an easy job. Appreciate those inputs, you know, and I think over time we want to get more input, especially if they can be directed into that master planning process, because this is a very small snapshot, a very important one, but of the bigger picture of what we're trying to do in Coyote Valley. So that's really what I don't want to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Yes, it seems like there's going to be many snapshots that you all will be looking at. It sounds like you have some great food for thought here for future constraints and a way to mitigate. I want to thank staff for the wonderful report that you gave. Clearly, we're all very passionate about saving these preserves and making sure that they're accessible for all. So thank you for being so open to our comments as well, too. Are there any other comments that we have? Any other comments from staff? Okay, thank you. Yes,
There are
Caroline.
no public comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, now we will receive a update on the work plan for fiscal year 2025, 2026, and the budget. Here we go.
Hey, let's rewind here. Good evening, committee members. So again, Justina Teen, Fiscal Services Officer. Just kind of quickly go over again. Would you like me to start over? Would that be better? Or pick up from where we go?
Yeah, maybe start over, quick slide on the
Sure.
org chart, just kind of
Sure.
refresh everyone.
Yeah, so just a refresher, takes about half a year, more than half a year for the budget and work plan development cycle. Typically it starts around maybe just around a little bit earlier than December, but around the October, November, we kind of even start talking about it. The executive team as well as the management and strategy team start talking about priorities, engage the board. And then in December to March is when the project managers as well as the department managers actually start to put things together. And then in May, we go to the ABC. In June, we get it approved by the board. And then in this fiscal year, a variety of projects and initiatives, including the projects and then the programmatic work as well, are going to be delivered through different departments, as shown in the functional org chart. The departments are listed in those the colored cells in the kind of like the third line down. And so those are those projects and programmatic work will be delivered through those departments. And so how it ties into the CAC's work plan, we'll continue deepening our reach into the communities through the work of local agencies, schools, and nonprofits by awarding grants funded by Measure Q and Measure T. Staff in the Conservation and Strategic Partnerships Department will be very busy managing the Urban Grant Program this year. And it's currently in progress, and we're looking to the CAC to support to continue providing feedback, reviewing the guidelines to inform future grant cycles as well. And that's aligned with Objective 5 of the CAC work plan. In long-range planning, staff will continue to work on CV Camp, that's Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Planning. They'll be conducting a series of public outreach events and workshops. The CAC can support these staff facilitated initiative to continue building awareness, strengthening the relationships with community groups, neighborhood associations, and just the general public. We really would look toward the CAC to assist the agency with promoting these events, and definitely also support these events with your attendance as well. With staff support, they're going to deliver, staff's going to deliver the public outreach presentations for awareness building, incorporating the timely talking points, and then looking to kind of give feedback on that from the board, from CAC, and from staff. And then along the same lines of meeting Objective 3 in kind of, participating in these outreach opportunities, staff in planning, design, and construction will also seek the CAC's input on some draft concept alternatives for the Rancho Cañada del Oro Regional Trail Planning Project that they're going to start kind of planning trail routes for. And then in communications and media, staff is heavily investing in public education initiatives, bringing attention to our project and just the agency in general, raising awareness through ongoing media outreach and establishing relationships with local reporters. So we ask that the committee be on the lookout for our events. There will be plenty for the committee to participate and engage in to fulfill the goals and tasks of Objective 1 on the work plan. And we believe the CAC will be great partners in supporting the public engagement events. And then in field, there will be lots of opportunity for CAC again to take part in training and activities produced by the environmental education and volunteer programs as they ramp up outreach booth events and outdoor programs as well. And then in natural resources, there are actually a lot of projects going on in that department. We've got a slate of projects that are actually up for completion in the upcoming fiscal year, as well as starting some new ones that are bound to attract some attention. And then one of them is the CAC will be asked to provide input on a draft agriculture strategic plan project as outlined in Objective 3 of your work plan. And so that's a project that the Natural Resources Department will be working on that CAC will probably hear a lot about as well. And then finally, the admin department will, we focus on the long-term financial sustainability and succession planning. So there are continued investments in staff, the board, the committees, such as the CAC, just so that we can, reap the benefits of developing the next generation of leaders. And this does include working with admin staff to implement a recruiting strategy to fill vacancies in the committee, which aligns with Objective 2, as well as growing the professional development of CAC members and strengthening these operations of the committee that aligns with Objectives 7 and 8 of your work plan. So then how will we deliver this work plan for 25-26? So then the budget that was presented to the board, just an overview for the CAC, because I know I only come once a year. I don't come very often. But so just to kind of recap, we have several funds that we manage. District 1 is a benefit assessment that brings in approximately 4.2 million each fiscal year. Measure T, which was a successor to Measure Q, is a parcel tax that brings in about 8 million per fiscal year. And then we also have two other funds that we manage, the reserve fund as well as the grants fund. The reserve fund is an unrestricted amount that does not replenish, but we have a healthy carryover balance that we leave and invest in, as well as grants. So we look for outside funding for a lot of our capital projects and acquisitions. And so any monies that we get in, we also manage, and they're only for specific projects. So they can only be spent against what was approved by the grant as well. So kind of envisioning the 12 million, plus we have the outside grants that we intend to spend. We had proposed to the board a budget of 19 million, well, a little under 19.2 million for fiscal year 25-26. The breakout, as shown here for the fiscal year, covers salaries and benefits, a lot of the non-discretionary operating expenses, as well as project expenses. Capital expenditures covers things like acquisitions and capital projects, construction, either it's construction as in public access, as well as construction related to restoration of habitat as well. And then we also have the grant allocation that we put towards the urban grant program as well. And how we compare to the current fiscal year, how we compare to last fiscal year, the last approved fiscal year 24-25, we had proposed a budget of a little under 19 million. And in the current fiscal year, the new fiscal year 25-26, we actually had a slight increase, about 2% increase. But that minor increase was also due to higher anticipated use of outside funding. So you can see where last fiscal year, we had only anticipated spending about 1.2 in grant funding. But in this year, it's about a little bit higher than 1.5. So the net use of our own money, it's slightly increased, but given that the 12-month consumer price index was trending above 2%, staff was able to keep the net use of our own funds level, so increasing by less than 0.5% in that sense. So then in that regard, that concludes my overview of the budget and work plan. The entire report is available on our website as a public document. And if there are any questions at any time, I'm also available to answer any questions about detailed line items on the budget and work plan as well. But hopefully the CAC would find this helpful in connecting what the board's priorities are with the CAC's work plan as well, and how your work connects with our work. And that
Through the
concludes.
chair, I just want to say every year, Justina team does a awesome job putting together our budget and corralling all of the managers in the different departments. But I say the same thing to our staff. It's a really good read, especially reading about the history of the agency and the different funding sources, where they came from, when they were approved by voters, and so on. So it's just a really good background document to understand the agency. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
any questions?
Questions? Yes, Aaron?
Justine,
Mhm.
just a quick question. 9% of your budget goes to election costs. Can you just describe what those costs are?
You said election costs?
Yeah. Was that correct?
It's in your packet.
But what is it?
Oh,
What's the definition of election costs?
so actually for this proposed fiscal year, it was a zero. The color didn't quite show. The 9% relates to the non-discretionary operating
okay.
expenses. Yeah, no problem.
Any other comments?
Thank you.
I did just have a general question, actually, and I saw feral pig management and removal that kind of made me want to ask a question, like, how do you mitigate for something like that? Are you tracking them running through the property or? Yeah.
They're in the therapy management line item of the.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't ask for, we do the same as the, as the coyotes as they run through at night.
All right, thank you. So now we will go on to old business where we have members of the public will have an opportunity to speak. Are there any general members of the public? You do have our chair ladies on this one.
For that last item, there were no comments.
Yeah. All right, and now we do have our board liaison. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark.
The old business item?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Receive present, because it said number one over again. Receive presentation on the open space 30 funding measure status by Mark Landgraf as well too.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is an update on the exploration of a June 2026 funding measure. Similar information was presented to our board on Thursday night last week. And since we haven't met as a body, the CAC, since May 19th to discuss this item, there's been a little bit more information, and I just wanted to convey that to you all tonight and allow you to ask any questions if you have any. So at the last presentation back in May, we talked about quite a bit regarding the June 2026 funding measure. We talked about the need for that nature investment for a new revenue source, our 15-year financial forecast, voter survey results, the outreach, which referred to both stakeholder outreach, which is primarily to the business community, but as well a public awareness initiative that expands on our existing and ongoing work to build awareness out in the public about what we do. Also regarding expenditure plan feedback and other potential measures. So that's just sort of by way of recap of what we talked about in May. And tonight, really, the focus is going to be on whatever elements we have new information about. So next slide, please. So we're going to really focus primarily on the public awareness and education. Quite a bit of information about that. And then we also have, as part of that 15-year forecast, some more information on example projects, just also to reinforce that need for new revenue, to give you a little bit of example of what these projects cost. And definitely those costs are going up, like was noted earlier. So next slide, please. So our communications team has been working on that expansion of efforts to build awareness. And this awareness building is focused on awareness about the Open Space Authority, but also generally about the importance of nature in people's lives, with the goal of increasing newsletter signups for people who want it. We don't buy lists, so we don't force our newsletters on anybody. We don't force them to sign up for anything, but we do put paid ads out there. These are some examples on Google and Instagram. Probably have seen many of these. There has been an increase lately because we've been focusing more on these digital ads as well as search engine optimization. We've also made some modifications to the website to make it easier to access and more intuitive. Lots of different things like that that have been focused on our digital communications, in part because it's very cost effective, but also because we can take a look at the analytics and understand what messages are resonating with people, which ones don't, which ones can we reinforce more over time. So these are just some examples on Google and Instagram. If you could go to the next slide, please. Also, Facebook ads, we've increased our presence there. This is one example of a Facebook ad that we've got some particular feedback on from one of our former CAC members and board member. Garnetta really loved this and had a call to let us know. So I wanted to mention that here. So the ad, talks about connecting with nature and wildlife, and then at the bottom, you click on that and it takes you to our website. You can learn more about our agency. You can sign up for our newsletter, but it's very, very word sparse. It's very efficient in the message that it communicates and brings you right down to where you can sign up for our newsletter. So on the next slide, thank you. These are some examples of some of the creative that you may have seen on those various social media posts, as well as some of the banner ads that we put on Google. They're just really, really creative. I'm really proud of our communication staff for coming up with these and finding different ways to engage the public. There have been suggestions from many of you too that have provided input and ideas for our social media and other posts. And we encourage you to please keep doing that. We love the ideas, and our staff is always eager to hear more of what we could be doing to engage new audiences. In addition to what we've got here, I want to mention too that we've had quite a bit of focus on posts in other languages. We work with our ethnic media consultants, Amaridia, to put out ads in especially Spanish, Vietnamese, and Chinese, but have been doing more ads in other languages as well. And so we've just been expanding what we're doing, how we're doing it in the efforts to reach new audiences. Actually, if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so here's some of the physical collateral that we produce as well. And we use these at our outreach booths. We're going to have many of these pieces at Spina Farms this fall to provide to the public. We also have many of these at our kiosks at the Open Space Preserve. So if you've been out there lately, you've probably seen some of these items. The second from the left on the top row there, those are bike bells out at Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. You can pick one up and the idea is to return it, but if you don't, it's got OSA's logo on it, and so you can be reminded of the work that OSA does. You can see here too, a lot of the material is in other languages. And then on the bottom right, I want to point that out in particular. This is the backside of the flyer that you all have in front of you that we produced with a lot of Citizens Advisory Committee input. So thank you again for providing that input. This is a summary of expenditures over the past 10 years from Measure Q and Measure T that shows how dollars have been spent and how efficiently we put that money towards accomplishments that benefit the public. And so the idea here is, and again, based on comments that we heard from all of you when we were talking about the funding measure is, there have been suggestions about putting dollar amounts in our expenditure plan for a potential new funding measure. But that really restricts us because it makes it harder to respond to opportunities or changing cost structures into the future. So rather than put expenditure categories by dollar into the expenditure plan, we wanted to put this flyer together that shows that we have spent those taxpayer dollars very responsibly, and so we're trustworthy. We'll spend responsibly in the future as well. That's the idea behind the flyer. So with that, I just wanted to provide a few statistics about the impact that our growing awareness building efforts have produced through those digital means. So our newsletter signups have increased. They've almost doubled since January. We had about 6,000 newsletter signups in January, and now 11,000 in June. That's really significant. Facebook followers jumped from 27,000 to 29,000. And these are people that follow our feeds on a regular basis. Instagram, 9,000 followers in January to 13,000 in June. We doubled the number of website users in the first 5 months that new website was launched since January. Reach, and that's the number of unique users that this material is seen by. Facebook, we had a consistent reach of 15,000 in January. In June, that was 330,000. So like more than 20 times the amount of reach. On Instagram, we had a reach of 54,000 in June, 170,000. So really significant number of increased number of eyeballs on the material that we're producing. Anyway, so that's what we have so far for the public awareness building effort that we're working on. Next slide, please. I also wanted to talk a little bit about that need for revenue into the example project. So you might remember a version of this slide that you saw before, which just shows operating costs. This does not include capital expenditures, so it doesn't really include project costs. These are just keeping things going on a day-to-day basis. A lot of the programmatic work, like the great educational programs that Mel provides, are included in here, but these are just operational costs, and you can see that over the next 15 years, they're anticipated to roughly double. Now, if we add project costs onto that, next slide, please. Per our expenditure plan, so this you've seen before as well. This is for potential June 2026 expenditure plan. These are the program area categories. I think you're familiar with them now. Within those categories, we took a look at just a sampling of projects that we have made some rough guesses on costs regarding. So these aren't projects that are defined or scoped out, and also costs change over time, as we know. Next slide, please. But just with this very small sample of example projects, we've got 6 different projects in Coyote Valley, and then others in other areas of our jurisdiction. These projects total over $60 million, just based on those rough estimates. And again, this is just a small sampling. If we look at Coyote Valley as a whole over the next 15 years or so, we're easily going to see more than $130 million worth of costs just on projects in Coyote Valley. That's not even our whole jurisdiction then. So I know those are a little bit they're incomplete number estimates. We don't have the opportunity right now to really accurately predict what all those costs are going to be, but they're large numbers. That's the point we wanted to make here. Of course, we're going to need external funding, and we'll talk a little bit more in staff comments tonight about some other opportunities that we're pursuing for external funding beyond the federal, state, and local grants that we pursue. But really what this clearly shows is that a steady stream of new revenue is definitely needed here. So that's what we had to provide tonight. I did want to mention that this information was provided last Thursday and we are still doing stakeholder outreach, so we haven't settled on a final tax rate or other details associated with the measure. We did talk in May about a possible cap per parcel. That is still under consideration, but we haven't settled on that because more stakeholder outreach meetings are taking place. But we do hope at our August meeting of the board of directors to have those things settled so we can inform them of what those numbers would be. So with that, I don't know, Andrea, did you have anything else to add?
I think our goal as a staff is at the August board meeting to bring to the board the key elements of a funding measure for June 2026, including the tax rate, some cap for control of that tax rate for those who are, many people very sensitive, tax sensitive right now. The notion of a senior low income exemption that would be a part of it, and other elements that would be a part of this. And I think we've said this to the CAC before, but keep in mind, you know, as Mark was showing that graph, we're an agency that has been a pay-as-you-go agency. We have no debt. We are operating off revenues that were last increased in 2014, so over 10 years ago. Meanwhile, the acreage that we're responsible for managing and stewarding has more than doubled. So back in 2011, when I arrived here, we had about 11,000 acres, and that we're now up to over 30,000. Within about 3 years, that'll go up another 40% or so, anticipating the land acreage that will be turned over to us by the Valley Habitat Agency, the Valley Transportation Authority, county, city of San Jose, Post, because we're very good at managing land. That's a kind of a niche that we occupy in this valley. But that line, that revenue line, as you can see, is flat, whereas the acreage is going up. So that's going to be a really important thing for us to tackle in this funding measure. And then the other thing to keep in mind too, is Mark talked about the capital costs are on top of that. One of our strengths is to leverage that modest local tax money by bringing in significantly more money. So for about every dollar that we spend in local tax money, we're bringing in $3, sometimes $4 from outside funding, from grants, state government, foundations, private sector, sometimes federal government. But again, you know, $180 million of outside funding has been brought in our 30 years, mostly over the last 10 years. But all of that money can only be spent on capital infrastructure, buying land, building trails, building staging areas, facilities for the public, all the things about programs, reaching the public safety, managing land for wildfire, flood, drought, all of that. It has to be covered by our existing revenues from our local taxpayers. And so that's a major reason why we're giving such serious thought to going back out in June 26. So we'll definitely keep you informed of that.
Thank you. I know Allison had a comment. I think Lauren had a comment as well. And then Erin.
I could have a comment and a question. As somebody who's not on social media, like Instagram, I think those are astounding and beautiful and creative assets that have been developed. I've noticed something at the preserves I've been out at, and I want to just raise it because I think it's something we're going to see more of, and I think it's a problem. When I'm out at the preserves, and I don't know if other people see this too, I'm increasingly seeing a lot of people on their phones, audibly either, I don't know what they're doing, TikToking, live streaming, they're having video conversations, they're playing music, it's audible, it's disruptive, it's distracting. I don't know if they're filming videos, if they're, you know, what they're doing, but I'm seeing it more and more, and it's distressing. So as we are creating more digital content and we are encouraging people to bring their phones for QR codes, I think we need to think about how we control the use of phones in these spaces, because we have signage that says like no loud music. I've seen that. But that's increasingly not what I'm seeing on the trails. And in a more connected world, and as we're getting more young people out with their phones and their devices, which is great, we need to balance that with keeping the spaces useful, usable by all, and not distracting or disrupting the wildlife and disrupting the other users. So I think that's just a call to action for all of us to think about. And I'm sure other agencies are thinking about this too. My question is, regarding the ballot measure, I think, one of the things I think I see the CAC being most helpful with is helping, once there's a decision, to spread the word, educate the public about why this ballot measure is important. Our job is to help tell the story. The example projects are really helpful, but I guess I would just ask, as you're thinking about developing assets for us to use to help educate people, because I know that will be a big part of you're always so thoughtful about giving us tools to help do the job that we can do for you. Thinking about the flip side of these projects or example projects are wonderful, but what can't we do if we don't pass this ballot measure? What are the risks? To me as a homeowner, or to me as a person who uses the trails, or to me as a parent of a school-aged child, what won't we be able to do? What are the risks to the valley if we don't pass this ballot measure? And I think that will also be an important part of the messaging, as well as all the great things that we can do. So just something for us to, I guess, think about, and I'm sure you already are. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much through the chair. Appreciate your comments about noise on the trail. And we have been providing messaging to please be quiet on the trail, to respect wildlife and to respect other visitors. But it sounds like there's more education needed, so it's a really good point to make. We want to stay on top of that. And then your question, very good question about what assets we can provide to CAC members that include mention of what we can't do without the funding. We've tended to emphasize the things that we can do with the funding, but it's an important point that you bring up, because a lot of the things that we saw were so important to voters anyway in the survey, like protection from wildfire. That's top of mind for people, and we won't be able to do that over time because stewardship costs continue to go up. Our responsibilities in managing lands for climate go up because we're seeing more and more extreme weather events. So we may not be able to do a lot of the land enhancement projects that we want to do for the community. I mean, so there are going to be much better messaging, sound bites and things that we can provide, but it's a really good point. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark. Lauren, then Aaron.
Allison, I really appreciate your comments about the phones and again, I think it kind of it reflects back to my comments from earlier about, like, yeah, we're trying to increase access and exposure and all that other stuff, but there is a tipping point, right? Like, there is a tipping point where too many people and too much technology is actually not what we're trying to do, as I understand what we're trying to do. So thank you for those comments. I also want to thank you for the bells and whistles, pun intended. And lastly, I wanted to bring up the fact that, I mean, again, I don't want to be seen as contrarian, because I am the opposite of contrarian. There is no bigger fan of us than me. However, as we increase our footprint, as we increase our scope, we can't look out to the great masses and say, oh, we need all this money because we've increased our, like, we're not victims, right? Like we should, as we approach our partners and they dump land on us, we should say, hey, well, we will manage these 10,000 acres, but we need your support in this way. We can't be solely responsible for looking to support from our constituents and from our taxpayers, right? Like, again, we're not just victims. I want us to control all the Bay Area, all of it. But we can't afford it, right? Like, and we should do so strategically. And when I'm addressing my constituents, my people that ask me about these things, it's not a good story to say, well, I've overburdened myself with footprint and now I need extra money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, no, I understand your point, Lauren. I mean, yeah, we're not victims, and we work really closely with our partners to strategically acquire lands that make sense for benefits that we provide to the public, like we were talking about the community climate resilience from extreme weather and things like that. So there are very important reasons that we can bring to the forefront of why these lands are needed to be protected and how people are benefiting from it. That sounds like that's a big part of your point. But thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Aaron?
Mark, thanks. I guess from my perspective, it'd be beneficial for me to understand a lot more of the project costs and the importance of each of the projects themselves and how that aligns with the next maybe 5-10 years of what you guys are planning to do. In terms of the costs of management, obviously it's going to skyrocket, and maybe there's an avenue in there for a private public type of a relationship where something can be done, not at prevailing wages, but at a different wage rate, to go ahead and minimize those expenditures. I'm not sure about whether that would work within your charter or not, trying to manage costs and the escalation of them over time, but just for myself to understand, bringing to to the public that I speak with in terms of these property taxes, whether it's commercial or residential, understanding more about where it lies. I think the people of the Bay Area are very, very, very generous. I think they will go with what you recommend. But I know a lot of people are really, really, avoiding taxes right now, and maybe that's a demographic thing. Maybe that's just a cost of living thing as well. So, but more information on my side is better for myself. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair. Thank you for those comments, Aaron. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of tax sensitivity. Let me take that one first, but then I want to get back to your other point too. There is tax sensitivity, and as Andrea mentioned, part of the reason for considering a cap is because it hits, folks who don't necessarily have a lot of income, but it hits in the business community as well, making ends meet. Yeah. And so we've got to be careful on both sides. One thing that we saw in the voter survey was that when people heard what it would cost an average household, so at 2.5 cents per building square foot tax rate of 1,600 square foot, $40, then they were actually relieved, and we got increased positive results in the survey. So definitely tax sensitivity, but from what we're gathering, what we're asking for is relatively modest, and people understand that the benefits that we provide are really important to them. You just have to keep that education going so that they understand that. And now
Public-private?
Yeah, public-private, yeah, and we will talk a little bit more about that later, but we are looking for ways to diversify our revenue portfolio in addition to a revenue stream that provides for that ongoing maintenance and stewardship that's so important. Seeking other avenues from private partnerships, corporations primarily. I don't want to give away the punchline yet, but we'll talk more about that in just a moment. But I did want to note that in terms of cost efficiency for managing our lands, a really important factor is the many hundreds of hours that our volunteers donate, and you're all volunteers here, right? And that makes such a big difference in how that we're able to manage the lands like we do. We wouldn't be able to do it without that volunteer work, like we heard Steve Mink work on Trail Masters. Very, very important program. And if we had to pay people to do all that work, couldn't do it.
Thank you. Bonnie?
Sure. All right. I'm going to jump on the conversation of the social media comments on the phones because I'm an elder millennial, young Gen Xer. So, and I also like my tripod on my phone to create ethically safe sourced content. So I understand the concerns, but I hope to encourage the communications team to create fun ways to either partner with those who are doing the videos out there or to find them and then to maybe work with them and partner with them to create something, a message of some kind, to create, you know, how to do this safely, how to do it with us, and we'll show you how to do this right, you know. But there's other ways to do it. I mean, I don't want to like have chastising messaging because that'll just chase away the younger generation who we want to like come out. So I just want to put that out there that I like the phones. I understand it. I know some people didn't like phones at weddings, but I was the one who said, yeah, the phone's out there. So I get it, but I also want to encourage a way to find that happy fine line. So I understand, but I think the communications team is smart enough. I see what they're doing. I think they'll be able to come up with something fun. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, and through the chair, no, really appreciate that comment, Lonnie. And you're right. We get a lot of mileage out of people having their phones out on the trails if they're taking pictures, you know, and sending those to their friends or pushing them out through their social media networks. So it's just educating them that we want to also have that peace and quiet on the trail for wildlife and for other visitors. But I appreciate, yeah, not wanting to push people away through like chastising messages, but working with people. And so I know you've been helpful to our communications team in the past, but maybe if I can put them in contact with you again and see what ideas you might have along those lines. Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Beth, and then I have a comment as well.
Yeah, I'm curious about your timeline for when you will decide if you're putting a measure forward or not. And the reason for that is I've started socializing a little bit in my community, and the way it comes out is I'm saying, yeah, they're thinking about doing a ballot, but they're not really sure, and they're doing all these surveys, and I feel like it just sort of like deflates the impact of what I'm trying to share. So, and I wonder, like, would it be fair to say, like, the default decision is we are putting this forward, and it's only if we get some strongly negative information that it's a bad idea, would we change our minds and withdraw the plan?
The chair, yeah, thank you, Beth, for the question. So, I mean, we're really quite early because the deadline for our board to place a measure on the ballot as part of what you were referring to is early March of 2026. So we do still have some time, but we did that on purpose, so we hope to have time to explore the feasibility. You know, there may be a need for another voter survey. So even within the survey that we took back in March, the positive response to the ballot question that was, you know, in the survey went from 50 to 60% with positive messaging and information about the dollar amount that it would cost for an average household. So that was really good. But it's still not at 2/3. So, you know, that's why we're continuing to do the public education that we are, so we get the word out there more, and continuing to do the stakeholder outreach. So we see what works with people, you know, what is significant enough a revenue source to fund our agency, at least for the next 15 years or so, without pushing people over the edge so that they fund opposition. So we're trying to find that balance point, and it just takes time. But I appreciate your question and your mentioning it to others in your community.
I actually had a question and a comment as well too. I do think that your impressions with your social media, you're definitely trending with a different demographic, and so applause. My question then, I hear you talk about stakeholder outreach, right? And I am assuming that staff is going to be using social media for some outreach measures, but I'm wondering, how are you going to turn those impressions into votes? I think that's really where that the question is, right? And the kind of call to action. And my little note, because I always write a little note, is the content culture is really into word of mouth. And so if you give them something to spread, again, that call to action, but using your impressions, using your demographic, and really making that difference there. Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that point, Madam Chair. So, you're right, their impressions and reach doesn't mean they're engaging with us. So that's why we're trying to push engagement by signing up for a newsletter, going to the website, all of those things. And then hopefully they continue to have further impressions about our agency and nature. That said, to turn those into votes, we've got to be really careful because as a public agency, we can't be advocating for anybody to vote one way or another. So we can educate them about the benefits that would accrue from a funding measure if the board actually does place one on the ballot. But the actual turning them into votes, that's going to be up to a private campaign that's out of our control. So in the meantime, it's really just getting that message out there more and more as much as we can. And again, if you or anybody else has ideas about what other audiences we can reach or reach them in different ways, we're all ears.
Yeah, thank you. As the education outreach specialist for Valley Water, when I was working with the fifth graders, I thought, okay, how do I have these students vote positively for Valley Water when they turn 18 so that we can still have safe, clean water? So that's why I'm always like, how do you turn this but again, it's the education piece. So thank you for that. Yes, and Joe.
Yes, Mark, to address your situation and to educate people, because I do a lot of outreach programs, this will be instrumental. And it's very simple and easy for almost anyone that works the outreach booth at those can take a look at this and they can explain that. And then in turn, that will give them the information they will need to make those votes without really giving any numbers away. So this, I'm gonna talk with Kat, make sure that every time there is an outreach that this goes in there because it's great. And it's not really giving away numbers, but it does say what we do and it's the way that we want to get that word out. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that comment, Joe. And through the chair, yeah, like I said, a lot of the suggestions came from the CAC. And as a matter of fact, I don't have one in front of me, but the purple pens that you all have, that was your suggestion too. So thank you for that as well. All those things matter because they, get our name out there and people see it over and over again.
Yeah, we were saying, we second Joe's motion for these great graphics that you have here in collaterals, and just thinking that you could even possibly turn them into some kind of digital content as well too. The graphics are so capturing, and this page almost jumps out at you as it is. So considering using what you already have to help produce what you're looking for the future.
Well, and to that point, thanks to Justina, she's no longer here, but she was behind a lot of the numbers, putting all that together as well as other staff. So yeah, lots of different pieces came together for them.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Thank you, Mark.
Through the chair. There are no public comments either.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to informational reports. And we do have our board liaison, Dr. Gill, who is here today to talk about the updates at the board meeting.
I don't have any slide, okay, so. Yeah, horrible thing. Good evening. Staff. Oh, that's okay, so, sorry. Um, one more time, good evening, OSA staff and then CAC members. For the record purpose, I know you guys know me already, but I saw some new faces there. I'm Dr. Calvin Gill, Board of Director. Today I'm here as an alternate because your regular board liaison is Kathy Sutherland. She just called me. She said she cannot attend this meeting. And so that's why I'm here today as an alternate. Uh, Sorry, first of all, I miss the first agenda item, Steve's honoring. Um, the reason is that because seldomly I just get the chance to attend this meeting because I'm an alternate. So I go through the agenda, but I miss the timing. I thought maybe timing is a 7 p.m. So that's why I came here as a 7 exactly. Usually I came 5-10 minutes early, but today I just came 7 and then I just apologize for that being a late. We just had many agenda item discussed in the last board meeting is June 24. Two of those items I think you already have in this agenda. The first new business item number 1, the Steve's honoring. We did that one also. Board of Director honors Steve dedicated service as a member of the Open Space Authority Citizen Advisory Committee since 2019. Resolution approved unanimously by the board. We happily actually approved that resolution, and it's really a good thing because he served our CAC committee, and then that's our responsibility to honor him. Even though you guys honor, but I miss that. The second agenda, we just discussed that Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority Expenditure Plan Oversight Committee provided 2023-2024 annual report to the board. This report includes background on Mayor Q, Mayor T, and EPOC. EPOC is the short form. Everybody know that. I don't have to be explained that. Findings from required annual reviews, finding from the annual transaction reviews, and EPOC committee recommendations. This report also is an update on the status of the previous year's recommendations. So this was actually the informational item. I'm sure that one. So we just look at that. It was really a great presentation, and we enjoyed that. The item number 3 was OSA staff prepared RFP to develop a nature investment framework and roadmap, which would be the basis for partnership with the businesses community and other stakeholders to contribute to the goal of authorities, including restorations and stewardship. Board approved Pollinations group for this project. Contract is 1 years, and then the cost is not more than 150K. The more importantly is that the amount will be covered by the outside grant funding, which is really a great opportunity for us to get the other side grants to be cover this project. The last board received the report from the Financial Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee to explore feasibility of a June 2026, because I don't want to give more deep information because Mark has already explained more than whatever I want to say that. Thank you, Mark, for that. That was really a great presentation, and then we need more funding. So we need to go to the voters and ask them, then they have to be passed by 2/3 votes. Thank you very much. And I'm requesting Andrea, if she want to add anything more, which I miss it, definitely please do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. Are there any questions? Andrea, do you want to address anything that was, Dr.?
I can do it as part of my
Sure,
staff
go ahead.
report. Sure. So Dr. Gill was touching on a contract that the board approved with a firm out of Washington DC called Pollination. And they're an entity that works with business leaders, the private sector around the globe to connect them with investments in nature. So we're seeing this a lot in Europe. We haven't seen it as much in the United States, but tech companies, food and beverage companies, global banks are having to take measures to respond to their carbon impact. And so you see a lot of investment globally around the planet in projects that will sequester carbon. And increasingly, we're starting to see also investments in nature because of dependencies that companies have in their supply chain. So there's a growing movement for the private sector to invest in nature. Aaron Gill, you know this well. We did a report back in 2014 that valued the ecosystem services, those nature's benefits that our natural and working lands provide back to the local economy, which are often invisible to people or they see them as free, whether it's filtering water, filtering air, sequestering carbon, recharging our groundwater basins, biodiversity, etc. So these all have a value, and back in 2014, the report we said that those values of Santa Clara County's natural and working landscapes are worth 1.6 to 3.9 billion dollars to the annual economy. So companies know this, but they have not been investing in their own backyard. They've been investing globally, half a world away. Those are, important investments too. But so we're interested in trying to create a framework that would incentivize the private sector to want to invest in the health of our lands, be they agricultural lands or natural lands. So here we are protecting landscapes like the Coyote Valley for all these multiple benefits. If we can't responsibly steward those and take care of those lands and take care of the ecological health, the services those lands provide will cease to exist or won't reach their full potential. So we want to have a marriage of funders, willing funders who want to step up and fund stewardship and restoration of our natural and working lands. So we're working with this firm, Pollination. The board approved a contract with them. We have already actually had about 10 conversations with high-tech companies in this valley, and there is strong interest in investing in nature. From a spectrum from pure philanthropy all the way up to how do we make money on investing in nature? What's the return on investment? So you look at that whole spectrum, where shall OSA and its partners develop a program that can attract more investment in protecting our natural and working lands without us overextending what we can, realistically do? We're not trying to get outside of our mission. We're not trying to do contortions to make sure that a tech company can benefit from nature. We're trying to hit the sweet spot. Now, at the end of the day, if we can go to the state of California and get a $6 million grant for a restoration, and that's easier, then we should continue to do that. But we want to lift up every rock there is to see legitimately how do we make sure these landscapes in our county stay healthy and sequester carbon, filter water, filter air, provide biodiversity, provide wildlife connectivity, provide healthy places, public health benefits for our public to connect with the land. So over the next 6-8 months or so, we're going to be working with Pollination to start to shape a framework of finance mechanisms that can come from the private sector's investment and ways the public sector and the private sector can work together. And so we're going on basically a learning journey with the private sector. We don't know what the outcome is going to be, but what we hope is that there will be more opportunities for the private sector to invest in nature, and that will bring increased revenue to manage these landscapes. So we are actually hosting a field trip as part of a global conference that's coming to the San Jose Convention Center in October. It's called the Bloom Conference, run by a group called Trellis. And so very well-known companies, global companies will be there talking about nature and how to invest in nature. And we're going to be taking some of them out to Coyote Valley to show them what we're doing out there. And our hope is that we will pilot a program in Coyote Valley that then can be scaled to bigger landscapes in Santa Clara County and across the Bay region. I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that. Okay. And this is a trend that's not just happening in Santa Clara County. Our partners at places like the Nature Conservancy, the state of California, are looking at how to do this across the state of California. It's a little tricky time right now because of what's happening in the federal administration, what's happening in the economy. But nevertheless, there is interest by private companies in finding ways to invest in sustainability that works to advance their goals. So that was the one main thing the board talked about and that's going on for us. A couple of other things. We've talked a little bit about energy. The demand for energy related to AI, for the electrical grid in this valley. You've probably read quotes from the mayor of San Jose about how they want to increase the electrical grid in this valley. It's going to take a lot of projects to do that. One of them is by LS Power that wants to a DC transmission facility that'll connect to Metcalf Energy Facility. Currently, they're planning that along Monterey, the east side of Monterey Road, backing up against the Coyote Creek. We filed a protest with the California Public Utilities Commission while we've been positively working with LS Power to say, hey, is there a better location for that? So after a year and a half of work, we think we've reached agreement with PG&E and LS Power to co-locate those new energy facilities at the Metcalf substation right there. So the EIR just came out and we'll be commenting on that on August 5th at a public meeting. And then some of our consultants working for us will also be testifying August 27th up in Sacramento. So this is part of a movement we hope will grow to persuade in the rush to get more energy happening in California. Let's do it in ways that work for conservation and nature as well as for energy. Along the lines of climate change, we were a major sponsor of the Youth Climate Action first ever Climate Academy that happened just last week. It went on for 3 weeks. I think there were about 45 high school students, maybe some middle school students who were students in this academy, learning about nature-based solutions. And then on August 9th, they're having a big summit, about 500 people coming to the Campbell Community Center. And that's co-sponsored by Open Space Authority, Joint Venture Silicon Valley, and the League of California Cities. So encourage you to sign up if you want to come, but it's a great audience for our message. Couple other things. National Night Out is next Tuesday, week from tomorrow. And we've been going to National Night Out for a couple of years now, but we are going to be at 8 venues in 6 of our board districts. We'll get the word out to you very shortly. Come show up at a venue, staff a booth with us, press the flesh with the public and talk about how important protecting nature is and the work that we do. And I think one of you is going to mention the cyber security.
One of us can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we, in addition to the federal grant that Thea had mentioned for the Hearts Delight Trail, that 800,000 that to our understanding, is secure, and that'll, that will definitely come our way. We were also awarded $250,000 from FEMA to do cybersecurity. I think we got that award early this year, but it had been under review to make sure that it was consistent with new administration rules, and rules. And we were just recently let know that that is also secure. So that's going to be administered by Cal OES, Office of Emergency Services. So we have that $250,000 as well. Those are the only two federal grants that we were having, that were pending for us.
Madam Chair, I think that's all of the reports from staff.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Report? No, any public comments? Yeah.
The committee.
Okay, yes, committee members report.
Are you ready now?
Yes.
Well, it's more of an informational thing and a question to staff. Or I was reading about a bill in the Assembly, AB 1156, that might modify the Williamson Act. I was wondering if you had any comments on that right now, or could expand on it. It sounds to me like that could allow agricultural and open space properties to convert to solar and still retain the benefits of the Williamson Act if they can claim water shortage. Am I understanding that right, or do you have shed any light on that?
Yeah, through the chair. We've been tracking that bill. Appreciate you bringing it up. We were pushing to have some changes made that were successful, because one of the most egregious things in that bill, which, like, you described it really well, would open up the Williamson Act to allow other uses than just purely agricultural. But one was going to change how perpetual conservation easements were viewed at all, and could have undermined a lot of the work that we do for our conservation easements in perpetuity. So that language got changed, so that's more secure. But the provisions that you were mentioning, we're still trying to work with our consultants and then talk to partners to see what the benefits versus downsides are. I don't know if
I've seen it, but
it just sounds like it could be a major threat to a place like Coyote Valley, especially if it's written poorly so that people could feign water shortages and get away with it.
Right. So yeah, we'll continue to look at that.
Okay.
I decide what
It's a little,
position.
it's still early in the process then, so we have plenty of time to get updates on that.
We do still have time in this session, but like I said, we got the major issue resolved that we were concerned about.
Great, thank you. The second thing I wanted to mention is IBM Research Lab has announced that it's closing, moving all its employees to Bailey. That's bounded by two residential areas, and it's also bounded on two sides by open space. So that's a concern as to what they're gonna do, because the article in the paper they said they don't have any comment, or they don't have anything to announce as to what their plans are for the future. So, I do know from a couple of IBM employees that there's rumor floating around that it might be Amazon or Google getting involved up there. And I walk in the Santa Teresa Park all the time, and then one of the linemen up there at PG&E was putting up a single line on top of their high tension lines, their high tension towers that go right into the IBM lab. And one of the linemen was saying that Google was paying, that was a single fiber optic line out there. So just a couple of little dots there to connect. It's all speculation, but another thing that needs to be paid close attention to. That could be another threat. I guess you're aware of all that too.
Yeah, thank you. well, we'd heard, through the news, you know, about the, migration of employees from the Almaden Research Center to Silicon Valley Labs. And just generally, you know, any opportunities that there might be for, open space protection and, protection of the neighborhoods from further development, we're open to. So we are tracking it as best we can.
Great, great, good to know. I figured you were, but I just wanted to mention those. That is all.
Yes, Aaron?
I just want to say that I really enjoy the signs, the marking signs on Palm Avenue, dedicating Coyote Valley as a preservation area. I think they look wonderful, and I'm hoping to get great comments because they look great. Great branding.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, those were designed in-house by Anne Marie Pallon, our multimedia communication specialist. And we're designed to be sensitive to the surroundings, so they're not too flashy or too bright, but still let people know that they're in Coyote Valley and they should pay attention.
Beautiful.
Thank you for those comments.
We have no further comments here, but I know Justin.
Hey, Caroline. We did a little project a few months ago, or started a few months ago, so I brought some photos to kind of help out. I wanted to share it tonight. A friend of mine, retired game warden John Norris, called me and he said, "Hey, I've got this buddy of mine. His name is Dallas Moore. He and his dad started a company called Kuyu. Kuyu made hunting gear, outdoor type gear. They've since sold that, started a new company called Akova. And they're trying to appeal to a more broader audience, not just hunters, but all outdoor people. And they, you know, they make clothing that's lightweight, durable, breathes, you know, everything you want. Anyway, so he says, this guy, he wants to do some conservation work, some PR work, wants to know if I had any ideas and what we could do. And I said, well, yeah, let's do some elk crossings. And next slide, please. Elk crossings are necessary because this is what elk will do to a fence. You can see they knock it over. You can see the bare patch on the right side of the fence, and then obviously where they're going through to break the wires down. And problem, this site here, this is over at Silver Creek Valley Road. Near the house at the very top is at Silver Creek Valley Country Club. And elk they're very damaging to fences. They're either causing cattle to get from one pasture to the next, getting from one ranch to the next, or getting out in, this is just an open space area that has access to Silver Creek Valley Road, which is obviously a hazard. The cattle get out there. So I said, yeah, I got some ideas for that. Let me contact OSA. So I did, and on Coyote Ridge, a couple years ago, we got grant funding. Well, several years ago, we got grant funding for fencing and some other infrastructure. 2 years ago, we got all the new fencing completed. Part of the fencing that was done was in a new area. The old fence was not on the property line. So areas like this on the old fencing, I know where the holes are going to be because the elk are creatures of habit and they go to the same spot every time. So if cattle get out, I know where to go look. But where the new fences were in the new areas, I didn't know where they were going to try to cross through them. So I said, we're going to have to go back at a later date and determine where they're trying to go through and tearing the fence. So that's what we did. So I contacted OSA, talked to Derek Newman, head of field operation, and I told him what this guy wanted, what's going to cost us. And I said, nothing. He wants to pay for this. He wants to pay for it. I said, all it's going to cost you guys is the use of a skid steer and a guy to run it for a few hours. He said, done, go for it. So next slide. So here we have Cliff. We have Cliff, and I'm not sure the other guy that was with him. Is there Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so what we did was we contacted Southwest Fence, who initially put in the fence, told them what we wanted to do, put in some elk crossings, told them what our ideas were, so they supplied us with the material you see. Next slide. And this is the finished product. You can see where the top wire was. We lowered the rail down to where just above the second wire. We chose a height that I felt that the cattle would not jump over, but the elk would. Picked spots, you can see the bare ground there on either side of the fence where the elk were going over and under the fence there. We took the bottom wire out as well, so that calves and elk calves, not bovine calves, but elk calves and the smaller ones can crawl under, larger ones would go over. We felt that an H brace like that with a pipe would provide a visual for them to look for, to find the crossing. I mean, obviously we picked places where they were crossing, and that's what we did. Now, Dallas from Makova, he had a videographer come out with us and created video of the whole thing. This was just a couple weeks ago when we did it, and it wasn't going to be ready for this evening. Knew we weren't going to be meeting for another couple months, so I thought, well, I'm just going to throw together a few pictures, kind of make a little presentation to you guys briefly. So anyway, we will be presenting it to the board as well when that video is complete. And anyway, so that's next slide. This will be my final word on the subject. Turn the volume up. All the way up. Wow. Anyway, yeah.
Nice job, Justin. Well done, Justin. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Hold it down up there.
Submit that. Yeah. Because I just signed up for a branch removal off of Metcalf that's gonna happen September 5th from the Trail Master. So that means we're taking it all down on September 5th, another trail.
I don't know what that
fence, you know, I just signed up for the other day. It's like, okay, there's a new one when we get down, take the old one, okay. Amazing how it happens like that.
Thanks, Justin. That was great. You know, I think that's how we turn the social media into voters right there.
And this is kind of a trial. We put in 4 crosses.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see, hopefully they utilize them, and if they do, there will be more added.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to more updates on the project and seeing the final video in a future meeting.
Yep.
All right, people are getting squirrely, so I'm gonna keep moving. Are there any other committee member updates? No. Okay, any subcommittee reports, if any? I'm sorry, public comment on that? Subcommittee reports? Okay, thank you so much. Meeting is adjourned at 9:06.
All right.